What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. So one thing that I talk a lot about when I describe champions is this idea of a champion's character or, their personality. And it's definitely by far Riot's biggest design obsession pretty much ever since they've improved the quality of their champions, since it actually does so much to bring a champion together. A well-made personality for a champion just does so much to bring them to life into the game and to make the player feel like they're really just interacting with someone rather than just staring at pixels on the screen. And I figured it would maybe be interesting to take a look at how and why this happens and some of the techniques that the Rioters use to bring a champion to life in this way. And if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you don't, definitely hit that dislike. And also, by the way guys, now that I'm finally finished moving down to SoCal, we're actually going to completely kick off our Hearthstone channel now. So we're making some Hearthstone videos kind of similar to our League content over on the Gaming Curios Hearthstone channel, and we're hoping to do maybe some historical, some theory crafting and development stuff for Hearthstone, so definitely check it out if you're into that game. There's going to be a link in the description, and let's jump right into the video. So when it comes to this kind of concept, the overarching thing that really pulls a character together at the end of the day by far is definitely their theme. Every champion has some sort of theme going on with them, and a champion's theme is all about their story. Who is this character? Where do they come from? What do they do? How do they do it and why? What do they want? And that part of a character is really what pulls them all together at the end of the day. And this type of theme is, really easy to figure out when you actually just look at the written story of the champion. And that's all well and good, but the written story really doesn't mean crap. It's completely useless, to be honest. Most people probably don't read the stories at all, and even if you do, a fancy article doesn't give you that champion that extra spice that the champion needs. A vast majority of players really just don't give a shit about the written story of a champion. I mean, let's be honest. But it's still very important to tell that story to the players. That story, that theme is what makes a character come to life. It's what makes you feel like you're playing as someone and interacting with others as that character rather than just mindlessly controlling some dumbass dude that does some stupid stuff. And so a big part of the designer's job is to tell the story of a champion through the design of the in-game character. The story of a character needs to be easy to understand and, more importantly, easy to feel without reading a single drop of lore or anything outside of the game. From strictly in-game experiences, you need to be able to tell what that character is like and why they are like that, and why and how they do what they do. And this design is generally done through pretty much everything you see in the game. You've got animations, sounds, voice lines, even the abilities themselves contribute to this aspect. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. First off, we have Jinx, who's a character that actually does this extremely well in my opinion. When you play as Jinx in League of Legends, you really get a feel for her personality straight away. Right off the bat in Champion Select, her voice line is, rules are made to be broken, like buildings or people. So right off the bat, from just that one single line, you already know she's going to be this mischievous, almost villainous kind of chaotic character that likes breaking the rules all the time and, well, other things too. And then you load into the game and you see this super scrawny girl carrying these two huge ass guns that are bigger than her herself, and she has so many voice lines about being this crazy maniacal girl who loves blowing stuff up as you walk around, and you get a great feel for her personality through that. But then the most important part is that as you start using her abilities, and that's when the personality really comes together. Her Q does a great job of giving you that two-gun feeling of just blowing stuff up and shooting people down, but instead of having just one main weapon, she carries around two bulky ones to switch between them, which shows a little bit of her trademark craziness, and the rest of her kit tells a similar story. You've got her W, which uses a third gun to fire Zap, and her E that uses the Chomper grenades almost feels like a fourth weapon, to be honest, and her weapons are all custom made to look super cutesy, which really tells you a lot about Jinx's character. She's still pretty girly even though she's just totally insane and just wants to destroy everything, but doesn't mind carrying around bulky weapons because she loves them so much. And then we come to Jinx's passive, Get Excited, which gives her a huge speed boost when she gets a kill, assist, or helps kill a tower, and that ability really just wraps it all together. It's like exactly what you would expect Jinx's reaction to be. You know, she gets so happy from just killing someone or destroying something that she gets, such an adrenaline rush from it. Definitely the reaction of a crazy person, and pretty much everything there is to know about Jinx's personality is actually shown in her kit, animations, and voice lines in the game. So it's a really great example of Riot's aim of getting that feeling across without anyone actually having to read a champion's backstory. But this is something that Riot has actually done quite terribly in the past. They're doing it really well very recently with the new wave of champions, but we're going to use an example here provided from a Rioter. So Riot Hero mentioned that one particularly missed opportunity in regards to this aspect was actually Aatrox. And Aatrox is supposed to be kind of this legendary figure in the world of Runeterra as a being from an ancient race called the Darkin. In the lore, there's only 5 surviving Darkins in the world, and they are all winged beings with fearsome powers that are just super OP. Aatrox himself was known to show up randomly during the Human Wars, only appearing to swing the tide when the battle was almost won, inspiring a bloodlust in the losing side and just causing a total massacre all by himself. Now that lore is honestly super badass, and considering his age, Aatrox is also one of the oldest and maybe even most powerful beings in League of Legends according to the lore. But how much of that feel do you really get from his gameplay? I mean, compared to Jinx, whose kit is just oozing personality, it's totally just brimming with character. Aatrox feels totally just plain overall. It's pretty unarguable that there's a big disconnect between Aatrox's backstory, his lore, his theme, and his actual feel in the game, and Riot themselves do feel like they sold his character a bit short, and there's a couple of Rioters quoted on saying that. And when you play Aatrox, you never really get that feeling that he's some kind of epic ancient warrior. I mean, his kit still kind of makes sense from his design though. He can heal, come back to life, he has regenerative powers, he can do like a jump and glide thing thanks to his wings, and he can kind of bloodlust himself with the bloodthirst / blood price ability, but overall he kind of just feels like another fighter thematically, but this time with a little bit more focus on the lifesteal mechanic. His quotes do give a little bit more of an insight into the character. Most of them are war related, spoken as if they were meant to motivate human soldiers as described in his lore, but it's honestly kind of a waste that this wasn't really exploited to be more of a game mechanic though, something like giving some kind of area of effect buff that enrages your allied teammates or maybe even the minions for example. His E ability firing a nuke that slows doesn't really fit his theme all that much. It kind of makes sense that some demonic looking ancient warrior would have some kind of range attack, but it doesn't really feel rewarding or satisfying to use, and it would be way better off as a more interesting ability that actually properly captures the feeling of Aatrox and the other Darkins, while also kind of setting him apart as an individual. You shouldn't need to read his lore to know he's a badass, almost godlike figure. I mean, he should just feel badass in the game. And at least on paper, he just doesn't, at least compared to some of the more successful characters. So recently, champion releases and reworks have done a great job, or at least a much better job, of capturing the proper feeling of a champion in the game, and it definitely goes a long way to making the champions feel more enjoyable to play and more than just a tool that you're maybe picking up for a certain ability or two. Aurelion Sol is perhaps a recent release that really feels like a big epic Cosmo Dragon kind of thing, even in the game. I mean, he's a good example of a theme being properly captured in the gameplay, at least on paper, especially when you're zooming across the skies and land massive explosions, using the core of the star. His ultimate could have maybe used some work, but overall I think Aurelion Sol was fairly successful. Sion and Rise as well are 2 recent reworks that have done wonders for the champion in terms of a theme. They really both feel like proper parts of the world after their reworks, and you really get a sense of their characters without bothering to read their lore or paying much attention to any of the promotional materials outside of the game that Riot creates. As well, a really important part of being able to do this is making sure that the kits themselves feel really visceral, original, and quite distinct from other champions, so that they can all have their own specific identity. Now, not every ability needs to be a perfect fit thematically, and it's definitely okay to sacrifice a bit of theme for gameplay improvements, and many Rioters have said that this is the case in the past, but although actual gameplay definitely comes first, as Riot Gypsy Lord once said, it's possible to honestly make any ability make sense thematically if you try hard enough and come up with a creative design for it. So hopefully Riot will keep looking for new ways to innovate and maybe even get the chance to rework some of the more failed attempts at tying a character's backstory and gameplay together to make them feel like proper individuals that players can grow to love. Personally, I really hope to see Aatrox getting a little bit more of an update that makes him feel like an important and powerful part of Runeterra's history like he deserves. So if you'd like to see an Aatrox rework, definitely give us your thoughts and ideas for maybe how his kit should work in the comments. And it looks like that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.